I will call the city council meeting to order. It's 5 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Slusher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltus?
Yes.
Wojni?
Thank you very
And he said he may not be here. Mazak?
Yes.
Holsted? Yes.
Well, there's nothing going on the 22nd except that
We
meeting.
have a quorum.
The housing is in.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Verification of posting.
The agenda was posted at
Anybody got an extra?
City Hall, State Bank of Arcadia, Arcadia TV and Compliance on the city website on the 27th of July.
Thank you.
We have a 16-item agenda. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Slusher, second by Fetch. Any questions or changes? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
And I'm sorry, that was Slusher.
And Fetch.
Mazak?
Yes.
Holsted?
Yes.
Slusher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltus?
Yep.
Motion carries. Public comment. Public comment.
Oh, yes.
Oh. Go ahead.
I was just, going to pass on that, the upkeep of the pool has been praised by a couple of people. They think that the pool itself is being much better maintained and is very clean, and thought the council should be made aware of that.
Appreciate that. We can pass that on to have us pass on to the proper people.
I've noticed there hasn't been very little downtime this summer.
Just
It's
one
been-
the other-
Just,
one the other day.
just yesterday,
Yeah.
yeah. With it, yeah, so,
Yeah,
it's
it's
very
That's a
good,
good thing.
yes.
Very good.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Presentations, we have none this evening. Old business approval meeting minutes from July 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Feltus, second by Fetch. Comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Holsted?
Yes.
Slusher?
Where's this from?
18.
You were here.
I was? You was not.
You were.
You were here.
Yes.
Fetch?
I think I was there, yes.
Feltus?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item, approval of meeting minutes from July 19th. This is from negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Feltus, second by Mazak. Questions? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Slusher?
Abstain.
Fetch?
Oliver Slusher was absent. Yes.
Feltus?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Holsted?
Yes.
Motion carries. Board and commission updates, we have none this evening. Department updates, none. Public hearings, none scheduled. Item 8A, review second quarter expenditure report, consideration of budget amendments. Questions, discussion? This is, we kind of readjust the budget as the year goes on, where some things aren't spent as much as budget, some are a little over budget, so to keep everything in line, so we try to do it 3 or 4 times a year, depending, but this is an error.
This doesn't affect the budget, I mean, it just.
Does not affect it.
It's a net effect.
Net of 0.
Net of zero. That's the yellow thing there.
Collective accounting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's the janitor?
Who's the janitor is the question?
Our janitor?
Yeah.
Her name is Dawn Craig.
Okay.
And she works here at City Hall, and she does some plant cleaning for Tim.
Okay.
And just to give you guys an update, as long as we're going through the expenditures, we have 6 approved projects from FEMA that have to go through the process to get reimbursed. We signed off on the first project, which is utility related, but the city is due back just shy of $300,000 from FEMA, so we're hoping that that comes here in August.
Any questions and or comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fetch, second by Slusher. Clerk will call the roll.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltus?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Holsted?
Yes.
Slusher?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thanks. Also, just as a note in there, you'll notice in your packet, the expenditures ending on June 30th, so half the year, where we are in comparison to budget. Percentage used, percentage left, or over, is in there as well. Item 8B, review and discussion of qualifications for engineering services for internal drainage improvement plan. Bill had spoken briefly about this, but this is something.
So this is gonna take a while, I don't know if you wanna try to get through the rest of the agenda first?
We sure can. I mean, there's just, operator licenses.
At least get to the, right before the,
Closed session.
closed session.
We can do that. I guess we'll go on to 9A, approval of bills of general account, the amount of $217,765.91.
So moved.
Motion by Feltus, second by Olsted.
Is he Dave?
Well, there's Davey, huh?
Where's Dave?
Okay, the bridge inspection, do we get a copy of that so we know how we are, or?
Yeah, I have a copy upstairs, I can give it to you if you need.
Okay, well, I'm just curious.
That's somebody else, Corey?
Kim, and,
The engineering.
we had a
For-
bill come through also for J&D Landscaping that was to reseed, the Warscala well we drilled, but we had to reseed it. And that invoice came through, and we're hoping that you guys would consider approval of that since they're a small business.
Need grassy?
Yeah, so when we, so that's just the reclamation work on the.
How much
after
is
they
it?
did-
$800.
Pay it.
Does everybody hear what Angela said?
So that's a landscaping fee or?
Landscaping for the Warshgala well after it was drilled.
Make it look good,
$800.
pretty.
Who would like a copy of the bridge report?
Well, I'd just like to know how we're doing, how are our bridges, are they good
You
or
want me to give
bad,
up?
or? Just
No,
email me
They're in
how.
okay
if-
shape, there's some maintenance that we need to do, but I can scan and email it to you. And or I can give a report to full council if you want me to.
I think that would be appropriate. Then we all know.
Bring it next month, or next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions on the bills, Kevin?
Yeah, Arcadia School District, July mobile home fees.
Angela might be able better.
Property
We
tax.
get mobile home fees from the, mobile home park, it's based on the valuation of their mobile home that's out there. And then they have to pay those fees every month to Countryside, and then Right Wine Trailer pays those fees, and then they have to remit those to the city, and then we have to, depending on the percentage of the school district's tax levy, we have to remit about half of our fees to the school district.
Geez, we could buy a lot of candles for $94.
Yeah. Well,
Any other questions?
probably got gold light fixtures.
Air conditioner probably in the city.
Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Feltes?
Yep.
Mason?
Yes.
Holsted?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Motion carries. That was with the 804
Could I ask,
JV.
could I ask a question? to you?
Sure.
Related to that, I suppose, but upkeep on our park, all the statues and all that sort of thing, that's the city's job,
It's the city's responsibility. yes.
responsibility. We don't have a trust fund from the person who donated those things? or-
There is a fund.
There
to help
is.
with the maintenance of some of the items, yes.
But
Well,
that
there is.
that maintenance fund has been funded by the city general tax levy.
Oh, mostly.
Mostly.
So, that fund
Fund.
was,
The fund
I mean,
is.
what's been donated is no I mean, there was no donation left over to fund ongoing improvements of the.
Oh.
I mean, there's no trusting for the life of the park or the,
At this time, no.
I like the way you say that, at this time. Okay,
We can discuss later.
yeah.
Item 9B, Haas Sons Incorporated pay request number 6, the final for McKinley Street, $54,919.95.
So moved not to exceed it.
Motion by Feltus, is there a second?
Second.
By Mazak.
And just so you know, a portion of that is paid by the utilities, that's the whole amount of the pay request that you're approving, but, water, sewer.
That's fine,
and-
no slide-in change orders.
Right, well, no, that would have to come to you for approval, but that, well, that's not 100% general fund cost, just.
So any other questions, clerk will call the roll.
Mazak.
Yes.
Holsted.
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Fetch.
Yeah.
Feltes.
Yep.
Motion carries. Item 9B, Winona Mechanical, pay request number 2 for Turkey Creek, $64,526.64.
So moved.
Motion by Feltes, second by Fetch. Questions?
So is it done?
Are we in budget there?
I
We
believe so.
are in budget.
Okay.
So, I mean, the only change order, there was no change order for that one. I don't know off the top of my head what the return from FEMA is for the Turning Creek.
Not much.
Take what we can get.
Well, part of it was we couldn't prove what was there before the flood.
Well, yeah, well, what we were able to,
So now that it's done, we have to make sure we, photo it and have better documentation, so if it ever happens again, that we know what was there in place, so it's not an upgrade.
correct, so we were able to prove, approximately 200 linear feet, of riprap that was there previously. And, I believe the job called for about 1,000 linear feet of riprap. As far as the dredging portion of it, we were able to show, a majority of the sediment that needed to be removed, was reoccurring or was naturally reoccurring, or was put there by the flood versus what was naturally reoccurring. And we did that by looking back at the maintenance records, so. I don't know what exactly the number is for the exact, project as a whole.
I mean, that FEMA's covering, I can go
Correct.
grab it if you want me to. Why don't I, as long as we're talking about it?
Sure. And that's for both riprap and sediment. So the way that FEMA breaks it up is they don't break it up by per project, like how we have it, Turning Creek, Oak Street, et cetera. They categorize, so, debris cleanup in one, so they may have a number of different projects within that debris cleanup versus a number of multiple projects within structural. So the numbers don't exactly match up.
Any other questions while we wait? Handle. Is there any questions in regards to those numbers? Otherwise, we can approve it and move on and see the answer or what the payment is back from FEMA. So we're waiting on it.
693360 is the amount that we can submit to FEMA.
That's just the riprap, or is that sediment also?
Sediment, which means,
The dredging of the railroad, the underneath the railroad bridge.
Oh, yeah, that part. That's what it's
Because we put
called.
those two projects together.
Mhm. We can dredge again in another 2 or 3 years.
As maintenance,
6 months.
yeah.
That's 6 months. Hopefully the Corps will come up with a plan, so we don't have to do that every 6
Well,
months.
it'd been a lot better if we could've dredged it instead of,
And dredged it.
what is it, 6 inches above the water line?
Yeah, so our permit called for
So much.
so much of an amount, but we couldn't go below the water line.
Couldn't go below the water line, so you couldn't go in the water.
No. And realistically,
That's where the sediment is.
it should have been dug as deep as that backhoe could go for,
Yeah.
so it could fill in and
200 feet on either side.
Straight to the.
Or more.
But no, that's a different type of permit.
might kill a frog.
Maybe you can read that better than I can.
That's crazy.
Can we still do that project?
Dredging the,
No,
in the creek.
I was looking at Robbie. What you called me on?
You know, you have to call down to La Crosse, ask him, seems to know everything.
Angela, we can take a vote on, moving one on mechanical. There's a motion in a second, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Colstead?
Yes.
Slusher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltes?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 10, operator licenses.
So moved pending background checks.
Second. Motion by Feltus, second by Slusher.
And just to let you guys know, they do not appear on your list until the background check has been done.
Okay, that's
So,
fine.
That's a given that.
Just covering the bases.
Okay.
No other questions, the clerk will call it roll.
Slusher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltes?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Colstead? Yes.
And item 10B, a picnic permit for United for a Dream on August 18th.
United for a Dream.
That's Luis's thing.
Lisa's thing, the Hispanic community, to raise
Okay.
money for scholarships.
Second.
Who was the motion by, sorry? Fetch, second by Mazak. Questions? Bill, I'm guessing you guys have met with multiple times to work out the kinks that we've had.
Correct, yeah, we met multiple times with them, well, I believe 3 times with them, and, they're getting trash services from Tri Sanitation, they're getting recycling, I believe, from Hilltopper, they're ordering, I think, 3 porta potties, 4 porta potties. They are agreeable to, reimbursement for police services. They intend to hire a, security firm from the Twin Cities to check ID, wristband, for, the party that they intend to serve beer at the pavilion. The brochure, shows that their start time is approximately 10 o'clock and would run to about 1 o'clock, in the morning on Sunday. Parking is all within the park itself and the school district parking lot. They're gonna be using the soccer fields, the restrooms there, the basketball courts, and they have a number of vendors, providing information about schools and not-for-profit organizations. Anything else I missed?
No, we will hold on to their picnic permit until we have a certificate of liability insurance. We don't have that, but once we have that in hand, we will issue that picnic permit if it is approved.
I did call over to, Leland, Christine, and, they do have that application and are waiting for a check from, Louise or United for Agreement. They said that they don't see any hiccups in obtaining the insurance policy except for getting that check.
Sure. Sounds good.
Does this start at 10 o'clock at night?
10 a.m.
Morning.
10
Oh,
a.m.
10 in the morning. And
10
goes
a.m.
to-
Saturday.
And goes to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Sunday.
10 p.m. to 1 a.m. would be a short party.
I know it, I think, hey, I might wanna go out there and listen to the music.
Wouldn't be a Polish party, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's more like an 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, the clerk will call the roll.
Fetch?
Yes.
Feltes?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Colstead?
Yes.
Slusher?
Yes.
Motion carries. On item number 11. This is a meeting I attended last, was it Thursday, Bill? With you?
It was Thursday, yeah.
Thursday in St. Paul in regards to the Corps of Engineers, and this is just for a special meeting pay that needs to be approved by you guys.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Colstead, second by Slusher. Questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Feltes?
Yep.
Mazak?
Yes.
Colstead?
Yes.
Slusher?
Yes.
Fetch?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, Kevin had told me that Mr. Komorowski was gonna come in and wanted to speak on some stuff about in public comment, but go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Justin. Morosky. I talked to Mr. Mazik about alternate side parking for this upcoming, snow season. I think it'd be beneficial, cause I've seen, the city snowplow have problems go around the vehicles, and sometimes they're in a rush to get all the streets, where if we don't move the vehicles in time, then that spot gets eliminated completely, which means that we have to wait till the next day. So I just figure relieve that pressure on the city's like snowplow drivers and just have that come into effect. I don't know. And then the other thing was
Sidewalks.
sidewalks. Seeing that the school district went to a bigger route where they're gonna be picking up less kids, it'd be beneficial that the sidewalks would get shoveled at a proper time, so then the kids wouldn't have to go to school and have wet shoes going in there. You know, there's gonna be a lot of walkers this year, I think, so.
Did that get changed or something going on with that, or?
I know they talked about shrinking, to expanding it.
Yeah.
I know they had a lot of public pushback, and maybe Raleigh Nelson's wife's on the school board, if you've heard.
I don't talk to her.
Oh. That's why she's so happy. I know that they had talked about
Yeah.
expanding it where there was gonna be more walkers, and I know there was a lot of public pushback of not enough sidewalks and stuff like that, so I don't know if anything's changed. But that's something that we've had to look at anyway, that we've seen,
Yeah.
you know, outside of the school, but if, you know, this does happen, it's just more reason to get this sidewalk shoveled sooner.
Yeah.
In the streets, of course, because that's where a lot of them walk in the streets.
Right.
That's a no-no as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Yeah, I just wish that there'd be like a little bit harsher time restraint on the individuals to get them shoveled off. I mean, I see your mom out there, I see Mr. Fetch out there, they're all shoveling, and they're all over the age of me, so if they can do it, by all means, somebody else can do it, or they can hire somebody else to do it, whatever the case is. It needs to be.
I think our current thing says 24 hours from the end of the snowfall, I
Mhm.
believe.
I thought it was 48, no?
24.
24.
24.
Okay. In the beginning of the season, it'd be a good idea to post that in the paper so that people are aware of it, you know.
Or on the electric bills, or?
Newsletter.
And sign it, and signboard. People are, you know, they gotta be reminded over and over and over.
Well, and I don't know if it's, sometimes it's kind of from the landlord to the tenant, like who's supposed to take care of it, you know? Tenant thinks the landlord's taking care of it, the landlord says, well, no, I told the tenant to take care of it.
Yeah, the way we operate is if we get up early enough, we'll shovel your mom's sidewalk and, you know, all the way down.
I know, I appreciate that, that's
Yeah.
less I have to do.
Yeah, no, so I mean, we're really proactive on that, cause it's just like, we don't want somebody to come past our yard and have to walk through 2 feet of snow.
Right. But we can look into that. We know that one's an issue.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Justin?
You mentioned the Shank Park glass.
Yeah,
I did go take a look down there today, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah, there's been occasions where they'd have parties down at the Shank Park and stuff, and when we go down to the biking trail, we ride our bikes down there. There's broken glass bottles, there's absolutely no respect. Maybe it's a case-by-case basis, however, it doesn't need to be that way.
And I did talk to Louise today.
Yeah,
So,
and then, what was the other
what
one?
do you thought, the thing about your electric bill?
The electric bill, yeah, so, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever that fire truck goes out, I see a little bit extra charge on that light bill. And I was just looking for clarification why that is. When in my 32 years of living in Arcadia, I've never called the fire department once.
So you're saying like when the,
The more calls there are, he feels his bill seems.
Yeah, like it goes up like a little bit more.
Hydrant rent, isn't it?
It is hydrant rental, that's determined through the water rates. We went through a water rate increase last summer. So it used to be 1170 or 970, and then it went up a little bit, but that's a constant amount every month, that shouldn't fluctuate.
Got it. I'm gonna have to bring in a light bill and have you explain that a little bit better to me, because
Yeah, it's just stop down and,
You're saying every time a fire truck goes out, the light?
I swear, like, every time that I hear those sirens, I can guarantee that there's a hike on my electric bill.
Have to pay more
You
attention.
know, and it's not like I'm plugging in extra things, you know, that month or anything like that, it's, you know,
It's all
it's
determined by the
consistent.
PSC, the Public Service Commission governs that, so.
Yeah, both the electric.
yeah, that shouldn't,
Yeah.
that charge shouldn't change, Justin, but come on down and if I'm
Yeah.
not here, Amy can talk you through it too.
Yeah, alright, and then there was, alright, so in the paper, I seen a while back, that they were gonna, build 10 more new soccer fields along with the ambulance shed, and I get the ambulance shed, but, and you guys correct me wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong here too, were there not 10, soccer fields ready to go up or approved or whatever?
No,
I seen it in the paper.
Luis came and discussed it, saying we have a need and could
Yeah.
use 10 more soccer fields.
Yeah. However, if that's the case, it's just like, that only speaks to one part of Arcadia, and that's the Hispanic side of it. Cause the last time I went to a soccer field is never. So what I'm trying to say is, there should be a little bit more give. If they're gonna add a soccer field, there should be something for the white population too. You know, like addition to the biking trails or something like that, if that were to go through.
Sure. No, that was
I don't
just a
know.
discussion
Yeah.
saying how
Yeah.
his program has grown, but nothing.
Yeah, cause I swear in the paper, I seen, a number of 10 soccer fields in Minnesota.
It's possible that number was thrown
Yeah.
out
There
there,
was
but
talk
there's
a
been.
while ago about Peter's
As an
Park.
explanation.
Yeah, as an explanation, but there's been no
Yeah. The
Where,
only,
discussion.
where we
Yeah.
put our soccer
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah,
the only other thing is my, my push for cross-country skiing, you know,
Yeah.
in the wintertime, in those areas too, so, in our park, so multiple use of the park is really, really important.
That's key.
The thing is where and what, that's gotta be planned.
yeah. And then the last one, and I'll be done, I swear. A little bit more police presence on the main street here, because, and up by like the high school. Because like, and I'll tell you by the high school, they have a sign that says during certain times they're supposed to turn right, so then they relieve the traffic and stuff. And it just seems like traffic, people, they wanna pull out and go left instead of right. And it slows down that traffic, and there's jams there, you know, every morning, every night,
Is that in Wilson you're talking about?
No, right, coming off
Right,
Gator
right.
Drive onto right lane.
Oh, onto right lane.
yeah, so just to keep that traffic flow going, and just a little bit more police presence right there. And I've noticed that down on Main Street there by Subway, there's no van parking there, and I've seen vans parked there multiple times. It's hard to get around and see, especially when like actually traffic is coming out and stuff.
I will say, I do
So-
know this, Justin, they ticket the corner spots a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like,
That's our number one complaint back from the police department,
Yeah.
is they got a $50 ticket for parking too
Yeah.
close to the corner.
yeah,
That one, I mean, not saying that they
Yeah.
don't, cause they don't get everyone, but
yeah,
I know we get a lot of complaints back saying,
yeah.
I got a ticket there.
There's signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, some people can't read though.
I
Yeah.
guess that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I mean, just a little bit more presence.
No, we
keep
can let
that.
the chief know that as well.
Yeah,
Sounds good?
but that should be it. Hopefully I wasn't too bad.
Oh, no.
Thanks for coming in.
No, we appreciate that,
Coming.
Justin.
Yeah.
Come again.
Yeah, have a good day,
Yep,
guys.
see ya.
All right, we will go back up to 8B.
Just quickly, this document is only the items that are approved, correct? So this doesn't show what the reimbursement would be on the settlement, but I can get that and share it next time.
is that in addition to that though?
Correct.
That I don't have.
Yeah, I mean, this is, so the way that they break it down, so this is water control facilities, so this is just a riprap.
Okay.
So there should be one that's erosion or sediment cleanup, which the sediment under the railroad bridge should fall under. Alright, so as you know, we're applying for an EDA grant, and we're asking for approximately, I'd say $4.9 million, and that grant, would go towards the internal drainage portion of this Army Corps project. And what that is so when you think of a levee, when it rains, water needs to escape somehow, and we need to be able to build the system up to the requirements of the Army Corps in order for the Army Corps to certify their levee. So in applying for the EDA grant, there's a two-step process. There's an initial proposal application which we had submitted. We received a letter back from the Economic Development Administration saying that we meet their standard to move forward in the application process. And so we need to submit a full application by August 27th. As part of that full application, if we desire to have our engineering costs paid by that grant, we need to officially bid our services. And so we've done that. We submitted requests for qualifications at the beginning of July, and then we got to answering questions and addendums and all of that, and I have a copy of the RFQ if you're interested in it. It's about 37 pages. But what I intend to do here tonight is provide you with an evaluation and selection worksheet, the binders that we received from the consultants who are bidding on this, and then I want to walk through the grading criteria and what we've requested from each consultant. My hope is that we're able to grade them tonight and then invite, there's only two firms that submitted bids, invite them back for an interview so that we can ask questions of them and then make a selection so that we can move forward in this application process. Now, there needs to be an understanding that we are going to utilize some of these services from this consultant once chosen to help prepare the application. So as part of the application, one of the requirements is an engineer's preliminary report, and that includes things like cost estimates for the project. That includes things like drawings, plans, and their certification. So those are costs that would come out of our flood expenses on the front part and potentially be paid back by the grant later on. The other thing that we do need to consider that if we do move forward in the grant and we receive the grant, that the grant is 80-20 match. So we would be responsible for matching 20% of the total project cost, and we're estimating total project cost to be in that $6.1 million range. So meaning, Angela and I have talked to Sean Lenz, our financial advisor at Ellers, about options for coming up with that 20%. So we're talking about approximately $1.2 million that the city would have to come up with, and the options that we're currently looking at are through general obligation bonding, interdepartmental loan, or the creation of a stormwater utility, which I think the jury's still out on that, because I believe there's a state statute, or because of Act 10, we need to reduce our levy if we were to create a stormwater utility. So understand that, again, if we wish to move forward in this, that there are some funding, even a funding mechanism that we have to make a decision on later down the road here. So with that being said, we did issue the RFQ, we posted it on our website, we posted it on the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and we also posted it in the Trumbull County Times. I did send it to 7 individual consultant firms that I've been in contact with previously, who have expressed interest in engineering services with the city of Arcadia. And of the 7, I did get an inquiry from two additional firms. And so with that, however, with that being said, we did only receive 2 proposals. One of them being from, this is the first time I'm looking at them too, so. First one being from Davy Engineering with Bar Engineering as a sub-consultant. And the second being from Strand and Associates. So I'll pass it around. Next one here is from Strand and Associates. Here is pass it around the worksheet that I have, and I'll grab 2 each. So what I'll do first here is kind of give you a breakdown of what, and in the order that we requested the information in regard to the statement of qualifications, and then I'll go over the evaluation sheet here. So in regards to the statement of qualification and the format of the binder that we received, you should have an introduction letter. And then a description of the firm. You should have a project understanding sheet. And then what we will be grading on our firm and team, consulting firm and team experience and capabilities. That's one section, and that's the max of 20 points. The team's technical approach to the project that we are describing, and I'll explain that in a little bit here. That's worth 20 points. Key personnel, experience and qualifications, so those are the individuals that are working on this project, and that's worth 40 points. And then similar work and firm's committed workload upcoming here, and that's worth 10 points. And then other considerations, things like the time to complete the project, competency, financial capacity of the firm, ability to render services, and past performance. That's with 10 foot. So, as proposed to the Economic Development Board, Administration and in the RFQ, the internal drainage, again, is the internal storm drainage system that in lower Arcadia, which is the downtown area. And it, we've asked the Army Corps for what the requirements are to update our pump station so that it would meet the requirements. And so they provided us with that list, and we provided it in the RFQ. Those are things like redundant power. So currently we have diesel pumps and electric pumps, but the Corps is requiring that there be a redundant power source to it. They're asking for things like redundant backflow prevention, so that if it does flood and backflow, that there's 2 ways of stopping it. Things like bigger tanks so that it can run for longer times. We have different pumps out there, so fabrication of the outfalls so that they can fit the backflow prevention on there. So that's in regards to the main lift station. And I have a full list. If you want to read the full list, I can provide that to you. And then, so that's for the main lift station portion of the system. We also have a number of smaller pumps throughout the downtown area. One small pump being at Ashley Way, at the Deer Park on Missouri Street. And then we're also proposing a pump to be added on East River Street and on Elm Street. As part of that as part of that Elm Street and East River Street, we are proposing to add in storm sewer from the corner or the intersection of Main Street and St. Joseph, going north, and then running east along East River to that pump station so that it can collect that local drainage off of that intersection and get water pumped out. And then we are also proposing that that pump be interconnected to the current system that we have on St. Joseph, so that if our main pump and our main system gets overloaded, that pump can help pump water out into Turner Creek. We are also proposing that on the section of Cleveland Street going east from St. Joseph, a reconstruction of that street so that the surface water and the drainage ditch behind that section of home would flow better into that basin. I know that's relatively shallow there. But to get that area to drain a little faster. And then jump over here to Green Bay Avenue. We're recommending a reconstruction of Green Bay Avenue with a French drain, and we get water to drain from that section over to West River Street and then flow down to the Deer Park and get pumped out there. We are also proposing a storm sewer on Madison Street from the intersection of Main Street there to the Deer Park, so that we can help with the flow of stormwater, and if the Madison Street area gets overwhelmed, you can take water to the Deer Park. So again, it's a system in which we are trying to improve. The catch here is improving the system without adding additional load to the main lift station, because we understand that if you put these redundant services for backflow prevention, if you fabricate the outfalls, that may restrict the capacity of the current lift station. And if you reduce the capacity of that pump station, then you have to go back to the Corps and get it all recertified, all the recommendations redone. So it's tricky, and so this is the proposal that we have. Raleigh, I think you've seen the map of what the proposals are. We're still early in the process, so that if there are any other improvements that you believe would help the project, we can definitely add that in. We do have to be careful about projects on private property, as this grant will not pay for it. If, currently we're proposing, projects that are in easements or on city property. Any questions about the project scope? Oh, there's a lot of information.
This is all to meet the Corps of Engineers specs so that we
Yeah,
can
so
go forward.
I can take a step back. So right now, the Army Corps of Engineers is doing their study on what type of protection best fits what we want. And, you know, we set out minimum requirements such as protection to the 100-year flood event. A project that we hope, once built, we can petition FEMA to remove a section of the floodplain in the downtown area. It has to meet the Corps' objective in providing max amount of protection. It has to tie into high ground. Has to be closed off. You know, if there's an opening, it has to have a gate structure or this repetitive backflow prevention. And then as part of the whole system, the levee, in protecting the 100-year flood from the outside, you gotta protect the 100-year flood from the inside also. And so that requires the internal drainage. And if we were to include the internal drainage as part of this overall levee project, it would pretty much take it out of our budget. And if it would take it out of the budget requirements of the 205 cap project, which limits the federal funding at $10 million at a 65% match. So if we were to include it as part of that project, we would have to petition for specifically authorized project, which gets put into this queue against other large projects and would need to be approved by Congress. So
Basically what they told us is,
it won't get,
yeah,
We're not gonna get it?
well, I think.
if it goes out of the section 205.
Right,
No, they didn't say we're not gonna get it, don't.
it'd be challenging.
You start to compete with a lot of huge projects
So,
throughout the United States.
so, you know, and again, there's a lot of different layers to this, and so when we took a look at this EDA grant, our thought was, okay, well, we know that we're gonna need the improvement to the internal drainage as part of this overall project. We know that there's not gonna be enough budget in the dollars allocated from US Army Corps and from the state. We need to find a different source of funding for this. And unfortunately, if they're looped in as the same project, we cannot match federal funds to federal funds. So what we really needed to do was pull the internal drainage portion of the project away from the flood protection, the levee portion of the project, and find a different funding source for it. And this is how we want to try to get there. Now, understanding that the federal funding from the EDA, if we obtain the grant and do receive whatever the funding amount is, that the city is locally then responsible for 20% of it, and that cannot come from the dollars that we have from the state. Correct. Perfectly clear?
Like
Yeah.
mud.
So,
It's gotta be done.
So with that, what I wanna do is get through this grading criteria, and what I think we can do is go through some of the materials here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask of me or of the project, feel free to ask. And then grade them, and then at the end of the discussion, inviting firms for interview, I'm hoping next week sometime. And then after the interview process, selecting a firm, and then negotiating contracts with them and then moving forward.
Bill, who's gonna interview them? Are you gonna interview them? The council as a whole?
Correct.
Like to.
Yeah, my thought is that, whatever firm we choose, because it's such a unique project and it's got a large expense to it, that the whole council will be agreeable to the firm that we choose. So with that.
Obviously, Davy and Bar bid on this together, or want to
Correct.
bid on it together, because of Bar's expertise in certain areas, similar to the, flood project
So
that Bar
you-
did, with the help of Davy, I would say, that was
Yeah.
Bar's project, but.
So, without diving into the materials yet, and again, in respect for both firms, I think we should go through the material.
Right.
And so both firms do, all three firms, in this case Strand, and then Davy and Bar Engineering have teamed up. Strand, I believe, has worked with the city previously. I believe at one time, the city was talking about a core project, and temporarily that kind of went away. And so the city had engaged Strand and Associates to come up with a design and study of a flood levy project. And then the core project came back, and then so Strand kind of backed off. So I think that's the history with Strand. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Obviously, Davy Engineering, in our experiences with Davy Engineering, and then Bar Engineering and the floodplain management. That we recently went through. So with that, any questions about the firms or the city's history with the firms? And I understand that you haven't had a chance to take a look at this yet. I haven't either. So we may wanna.
It's a lot of stuff to plow through here.
Right.
Are we gonna like grade these tonight, or are we gonna have time to look at this and,
Well, I wanna be able to do it together,
okay?
so that we would be, I would be able to answer any questions that you have, and due to the timeline that we are on, again, we need to get a consultant on,
For the end of the month, or before the.
well, we need to get them on pretty quickly so that they can develop the engineering's, preliminary report, which is required in the application that's due at the end of the month. So do you wanna break each of these sections down, or do we wanna?
Well, we just start with each
No,
one.
I'm
and
just
then we'll
thinking,
talk about
alright, about the timeline, and I don't wanna, cause I'm glad we have other people, but when you're on a short timeline, I mean, it's, you know, people that know the history, and granted Strand's done business here, and I'm not, don't wanna sound like I'm advocating for one firm over the next, but are we gonna end up paying so much more for history that's already known? And there's gonna be all this research that goes in from another firm? Like if you take a new firm, they're gonna have to go and research all this stuff that somebody already has?
So,
I mean, that seems like a lot of man hours. If you're starting a new project, and I'm fine with going a different way, I'm just throwing it out there.
And they both can get the job done, right? So-
yeah,
It seems like Strand did a job right in Davy's backyard for the city of, you know, the city of Mount Maskell.
yeah, both,
So I'm not saying that, which kind of, I question a little bit, that seems weird, but.
So just a little bit about so we have stormwater information from a lot of different sources. And through the Corps' internal drainage study, they've collected all that information. And we try to keep the RFQ on as even of a basis as possible. And so we are starting, I mean, given that Davies collected information on the city previously, in the RFQ, we did make a note that the information that whichever firm gets started on will be coming from the Army Corps. Because they have the most complete picture of our stormwater, at least in the downtown area. And then they've also plotted and mapped it, and we requested for the shape files from them so that we can include that in our GIS program.
And the only reason I say that is it just seems like that could be a huge expense for us. But I'm not against going that route.
Well, Strand already started a flood study program once.
Here. And why didn't other people bid on the project or even submit anything?
They should have the basic knowledge.
Help us as well.
I mean, they should have the information from that study to
Well, really, we have all the information. I mean, if we pay for it, it is our information, not Dave's information. It's just, takes more time, it's a little bit more cumbersome across.
Can I just ask a question? So we're gonna evaluate these two firms, but there's a potential that we're gonna have them both come in anyway next week for an interview?
Yeah, that's up to the council here. I mean, you can choose one over the other for an interview, or you can choose both of them to come in for an interview.
Or they could go through it tonight and make a decision? Maybe.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I think this is a lot to go through. I'd rather talk to both of them, I don't know about anybody else.
Mm-hmm. I'd actually like to read this first before I.
Yes.
Okay, so,
I deep down of it, I'd like to just change and give Strand a shot at something. That's just my personal opinion, but.
Well, after learning what I learned about Madison Street, I'd be in favor of that.
But I think, it'd be worthwhile to sit down with both of them, I
Yeah.
do agree, but that's just my off-the-cuff opinion.
well, and again, the history is important, but we need to consider the project moving forward. Internal drainage, specifically internal drainage in the project scope itself. So I'm not adverse to, let's everyone take these and review them, so that you've had the chance to review them. And if we wanna interview the both of them, next time, we do that. But I would recommend, because of the history on certain projects in the past, to make a decision solely based on that, because this project here is vastly different from a particular project that we've done so in the past. And this, again, this is not for all engineering services moving forward, this is particularly for the internal drainage.
So we can go through all this material here, and we can have them both come and sit at this table, we can talk to them. What are we gonna ask them? I mean, all the answers of qualifications and all that sort of thing are basically in this book. What are you going to be doing that really makes you stand out versus another team?
Correct, that's the next question is, so if we do invite them to interview, what is it that we want from them? Do we want them to provide
That's right.
a presentation of the work that they've done? They have provided some more work in this, what they've worked on.
Yeah.
Um,
It's in here. Yep. similar work and all, that's all in here.
You know, the other part of the interview is not necessarily confirming the work that they've provided here, but to see how they interact, the team that's going to be put together, how they interact in providing answers to the council, meeting the people that may be working on the project, and getting a feel for who they are and what they do.
I'm gonna go.
I mean, Strand has some huge projects, that, the Dubuque project, 99.7 million. Which this one kinda gets me, this Winnetka, Illinois. $256,000 for a study on a $58 million project.
And here we're spending.
We're spending 1.2 million to do a, $20 million project.
So we're kinda nickel diving, huh? Well, that's the thing,
Well, I mean, there are, in regards to the application and this project, there are certain things that I am looking for, and you may feel differently about that, but in regards, I think, and keep this in consideration when you do review, as far as grading, I think that the firms and the team's experience, capabilities, and their professional qualifications, they're both well-known firms. Bar is also well-known. I think they both have meet that criteria. I think that what's going to be important are each of their technical approaches to this project. And again, I haven't read them myself. I've just opened it, but what is their approach to the project? And then the big one here is the experience and qualifications of key personnel and project teams. Understanding that we are working with multiple parties. We are working with not only U.S. Army Corps on this project, we potentially are working with CN Rail, working with Ashley, we're working with Field and Pride. The Department of Natural Resources, DOT, Department of Transportation, potentially FEMA. So, do these firms have people that have previously worked in those agencies and understand the process? Do they understand the grant writing process? Do they understand the reporting process? What do they do as far as construction management? Do they take the project from project start and design all the way through completion, and reporting thereafter? So that's kind of the experience and the people the team members that we're looking at that I would consider. So that's a large part of it. And then the present and committed workload. As far as timeline, from the time that we pick a firm to the time that we submit the application on the 27th, there will be a crunch for resources. I mean, they have 2 weeks to put it together, a preliminary report that has a number of items necessary, costs, looking at properties, descriptions, drawings. So there's going to be a crunch for time, and once we get it submitted, then there's going to be a time frame where we may be sitting around waiting for an answer back before we can push forward to the implementation and bidding of the work, and then specific design, et cetera.
Both firms are aware of those time crunches.
Correct.
That's obviously why we probably lost some,
Correct.
because they don't have the time to devote
Correct.
to the
And
next
then-
month.
Yeah, and then the other considerations, things like, their past performance, past history with the city, You know, those things, you know, we can consider that also. But, you know, again, as you go through this material, keep those things in mind. And I think, you know, as far as the presentation or interview, you know, I think what we should do is have them present their information and then be able to ask questions about the particular projects or their approach or their qualification. And those don't have to be anything that's written. Those can definitely come from each of you, and I can prepare some questions to ask at the meeting.
Because we really don't want them to go through page by page in the presentation.
No, we
here.
don't, I mean, I think
That would take
we
forever.
have, I mean, we have what we need to grade them here.
Mhm.
I think what's gonna be important to me is through the interview and the presentation, if they know, you know, we can grasp their understanding of the project, we can poke holes and questions about their experience, you know, they may have listed something here, but, you know, it may, you know, when you ask questions, you may get different answers, so those type of things.
I think willingness to work with this project and be comfortable with it, this type of thing. So in other words, their capabilities and all that sort of thing. It's all related to that first question, their qualifications and capabilities and performance. So I suppose we could kind of go to those areas and pick out questions that would fit in those areas, I suppose. But I don't think we need to go through both books here, and I think we need to glean out of these notebooks the type of information that we need to ask them. I mean, are they comfortable working with this project? Are they capable? Are you willing to meet the timeline and
You know, that, in a similar work, not to interrupt you,
sure.
you know, where it says for strand, 6 examples of the project are listed below, Dubuque, Winnetka, Galena, Paducah, they all required close coordination with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. I believe probably other than Paducah would all be in the St. Paul district.
Within our area.
Paducah would probably be, no, might, no, that'd be probably, that would not be,
What-
'cause that'd be
what's
right,
that? They're in Kentucky.
that's right on the Ohio River.
Paducah?
Right. But, you know, which says something, I mean, you work with these same people all the time, they know each other.
I'm just kind of wondering if all the qualifications are very similar, are we just gonna come down to the point of we're gonna flip a coin, you know? I mean, they might be fairly similar. So then it comes down to the point of, well, maybe we should try somebody new, or else we'll work with somebody who is already, we've been working with.
Did Bar want to bid on it, I wonder, and wanted to work with Davey? I mean, that's something.
I know that they worked.
Obviously, Bar is a lot larger firm than Davey.
Correct.
Bar, if you look, Bar has over 400 and some engineers, I think he's
Yep.
out there.
Yeah, they, and they've worked together before, obviously, Davey has the experience within the city here, and Bar has quite a lot of experience with Army Corps of Engineers. I think one of their engineers here actually worked for the Army Corps previously. Yeah, page 31 of their presentation, Bill Spatala, a senior water resources engineer. Spent 25 years with USDC. So part of that, and I just, wondering if Jan have anyone there. any of the Strand engineers actually work for, the Army Corps. But things like that, I mean, that kind of brings the attention, 'cause not only are, maybe we be able to capitalize on their knowledge of the USAC or the Army Corps system and what their requirements are, but, you know, they have past relationships with the Army Corps that we're able to leverage, and assistance with this project, so. And that's just an example,
Yeah,
but,
but why'd he leave the court,
well,
you know? Did he leave in good terms?
I don't know.
You know,
But I do know that a lot of times these firms like to recruit people from agencies.
They can pay more.
Correct. So, my recommendation, again, based off of those items that I've discussed, take the, what I would like to do is take the, package with you. I would like to, let's see here, I'm just gonna take a look at the timeline.
We probably need to meet
Take
with them
Bill.
soon, right?
Yeah, it's tight.
Cause we're being, yeah, it's tight.
So I wanna let them know. August 7th and 9th through 9th for interviews. So, I'm getting the feeling that we wanna interview both firms.
I think you
I
should.
think since there's only two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably fair anyways, huh?
So what I can do is contact both the firms and let them know that we'd like to interview both of them, and pretty much the interview will be a presentation of their materials and concentrated on, you know, their technical approach and then their personal experience working with Army Corps, the rail, large businesses.
Gonna give each one like 45 minutes or an hour.
45 minutes.
Start at 5.
Yeah.
Next one can come at 6, a little break in between 10,
Yeah.
if it runs along.
Over the subway here.
So you're gonna pick a date, between the 7th, 8th, 9th, is that what it was?
Yeah, what dates work? We had a meeting on the 6th.
We have a meeting on this August sixth, so
How about the 8th, huh?
you want to.
Ashley for the art start on the 9th.
What's that?
Ashley
Yeah.
for the art start on the 9th.
Then-
You're running the marathon, aren't you?
Can you guys, would you guys be available on the 7th? I just think time is kind of the essence.
Other than
You'll have
can
to
do
rate
the
my
7th.
son.
Okay.
7th is fine. I'll make it work.
What, 7?
7th, 5 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
So at 5 o'clock we'll have, pick your firm.
What's that?
Whoever travels further,
Yeah.
right here.
W Strand, yep.
Go first.
Which date, the 8th?
Seventh.
Tuesday the 7th. We're probably gonna get sick of seeing each other then next week. Okay.
Yeah.
6, 7.
As long as Marlo's gonna be gone for a month. she needs-
You're gone on the 7th?
So you got, how long you got for?
Through the 23rd or 24th.
Or we can't
All
leave
right.
Then I.
You wanna give me your questions and, your thoughts on the grading and of each firm then, before then?
I will certainly try.
5 o'clock.
Stay off the bike.
Or you have to reschedule something, right?
What's on the 7th, Bill?
Oh, no, so of course.
Nothing's on the 7th.
Too bad we can't go later in the month, because, I mean, there's nothing.
Right, but we wanna be
Yeah.
fair to them and
Oh, I understand, but I
give
mean,
them And that's, much as I'd like to just switch, you know, part of me, I mean, 'cause Marge just worked on our other project too.
Well, and again,
And I get it, they're two different things.
yeah, and I struggle with that too. It's, you know, I wanna give them both a fair opportunity at this. I know that it's been expressed at this table previously about, you know, some of the projects that we've had in town. But again, and that does play a role into this, but we should not make a decision solely based on that. Considering that, you know, you can, if you make a decision solely based on that, you may not be hiring the best firm for this project.
Do we, look for which one is low bid, or there is a bid here, or?
No, we did not, I mean, we requested as part of the RFQ for what, their rates and fees are. And those have been provided. Understand that we have the ability to negotiate cost and price. Once we do choose to go with a firm. And keep in mind that each firm, depending on the workload, so, you know, you may have a principal engineer at, I don't know,
$145 to $295.
per hour, correct, but they may be working limited on, you know, on that project and have a lower engineer work on that project, so. I mean, if you just look at the fees for each of these, you know, looking at grand
They're about the
and,
same.
Well, and they have to be, cause they're all competing, they're all in the same pool, trying to get the same money from the same cities.
right,
Yeah,
should've
Right,
went, I should've
yeah.
went into
and
the.
just wait, my $35 was for all day,
Right.
from the time I left here till the time I got back. This is this much an hour.
We can look at all these numbers and then calculate this, and calculate that, but, what are they gonna offer? I mean, that's my point, just, what are they going to offer versus the other firm? But would that simplify it?
What do you mean, what are they going to offer? I think,
What the cost would be, what their fee would be for doing this?
yeah, so a bit of that, I don't know if they're able to provide us currently with what their final costs are going to be until we specifically define the project, so currently,
So neither one.
we've provided information informing them of what projects we'd like to take on. We've named a street, we've named surface drainage, we've named certain requirements for upgrading to get to what the Corps expects. But I'm in no position to break that down and provide plans and design. You know, that's what the engineer is for. And then what I would imagine happening is that once the engineer has taken on the design, they would then provide a cost estimate to it, and then they would estimate what time they spent on each of those. So it's hard to gauge what the total project cost or the lump sum amount is on each of these projects, because they can easily, I could be totally off base and, I estimated the whole project cost, engineering, administration, legal, contingencies, construction, right around that $6.1 million, and we've said that to the EDA, but it could be a reality that you get an engineer in here and they break down per unit item based off the most recent bid, and they come up to I don't know, $4.5 million. So then that final grant application is gonna change from 6.1 to 4.5. City would then pay the 20%, and then the ask from the EDA would be like 80%. So, you know, it's a,
Well, it's just, just the whole project in general, with the, I thought that $24.5 million was gonna be more than enough, and now we're going down this road, could we go, well, $24.5 million is enough to finish the project.
right. So, I mean, and we do, so if the cost goes up, there's a limited amount of dollars that we have for EDA, from the EDA pool. So if the cost goes up, we can definitely apply for more, but that's going to also depend on how much we're willing to bond for, right? So that impacts our obligation amount. That also impacts if the levy project goes over budget, how do we finance a portion of that? And so, if the city council and we're not comfortable with the $1.2 million, we could definitely scale back our project, the EDA project. We've built things in there that would support a better internal drainage project, but it helps the core project, but it's not a requirement of the core for their certification.
Better to shoot a little higher than,
Well, that's
that's the theory.
I mean, that's the theory, and it's to address issues that we're gonna have, and it's gonna address reducing the capacity, or reducing the load on our main lift station. So there's added benefits to it, there's added value to these projects, but if absolutely we have to take something out, we know at the minimum, what we need to get the core project to move forward. So we built those protections into the internal drainage project.
Any other questions?
No.
Feel free to reach out over the next 3, 4 days, 5 days. You know, reach out to Bill, cause
Correct.
you didn't ask anything Tuesday.
Yeah, all I ask is get to the materials, if you still feel the same way that you feel currently, that's fine with me, but at least get to the material and give up all
Just a fair shake if we
fair shake.
Alright. Future agenda items, since we'll be meeting in the next couple of weeks, we've got some stuff coming out already. Next, we're kind of past week, future meetings. The regular meeting will be August 15th, we'll be meeting August 7th as well. And August 6th as well.
You guys want copies of the request for services at all?
I do not.
37 additional pages of reading.
Read, more reading.
Aren't you flying to Texas? That's good, you're flying to Texas.
We can video you in.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We've tried that before.
Conference call?
We'll just have your face up.
Oh, okay.
I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Motion by Azak, is there a second?
Second?
By Quista.
No future agenda?
So we're meeting in the next couple of weeks, or next 2 times next week, so.
Anyways, yeah, hope I'll be here.
Well, when we come back out, can we go back into public comment?
Sure.
Okay.
Mazak.
Yeah.
Holston.
Yes.
Slusher.
Yes.
Dutch.
Yes.
Feltes.
Yep.
We're in closed session.
Go ahead, Joe.
It was brought to my attention by the fire station that we could put in 2 36-inch culverts would have worked when the engineer said they wouldn't.
So what's changed? When they said it wouldn't work?
Well, they told us it wouldn't work, so then we didn't go that route.
They expect 60 inches,
But,
not 236s.
well, the point being, we're putting in a small culvert right now, and it's dug up So, if we ever go back to doing the original, the plan that was presented to us with the water flow or whatever with the pumps, if we were to go back to doing that, the pipes wouldn't be there, we'd have to dig Madison Street up again. And as long as it's dug up, wouldn't it make more sense now to put them in?
With bigger pipes in.
What plan are you talking about?
This is the whole internal flood.
Yeah.
But the internal flood wouldn't go over there.
We already had a plan that he showed us.
Going across Ashley Furniture's property, they're not agreeable to that.
No,
No?
Yeah, they were part of the reason that they didn't want that to go into.
We
the
talked,
property.
yeah, we had the conversation here at council, we want to go talk to Ashley about what the future is there. And the response from Mike Moran was that there's no reason why they would want any kind
Okay.
of pump on that section.
I'm just looking at, instead of digging the road up later on to put them in, right now is the time to do it if we were gonna do it.
No, I understand that, yeah,
Even though the engineer told us it wouldn't work.
correct.
Yeah.
But, you know, all things considered, we did talk to Mike Moran and Ashley about their futures there, and they don't want anything to interfere with
Parking or
any kind
building
of,
or roads.
yeah.
they got the wires really high for building.
And then,
that was their
and then I know
purpose.
that there was once talked about a pump, you know, going from that section across and putting a pump station on Ashley Way. The current pump station on Ashley Way is small and it only drains the items there. But, without knowing what the Corps is gonna do on Ashley Way at this point, whether it would even be a viable spot for a pump at that point, it doesn't make sense to invest, but.
It was brought to my attention, so I said I would mention it.
Perfect.
I just wanna say one thing, I think we really need to do something with the kiosk and visitor center and flower garden, something with that mulch. I think it looks terrible. I should've said that. I should've brought that up earlier.
Where's that?
By
And
the
for the
visitor
kiosk
center.
center, there's
mulch?
the mulch around the flowers.
Okay.
The visitor
I mean,
center.
we got 60,000 people coming to Arcadia and it looks, I think, I walked by it today, I think it looks like shit. but- Sorry.
All right,
Yeah.
entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Feltes, second by Fetch. Clerk will call the roll.
Fetch?
Bless you.
Feltes? Lindsay?
Feltes?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you call everybody?
Heads up to everybody, stay out of Miller Park.
Feltes.
Clerk will call